Hello everyone, this is Mouse, and I thought, well, as I'm not there and you're off school, I thought I'd read you a story. I've got a few books on the shelf and I've picked out one of these little green ones, you know, that you play with sometimes. This one is The Tale of Jeremy Fisher, and it's about a frog. So here we go. Once upon a time, there was a frog called Mr. Jeremy Fisher. He lived in a little damp house among the buttercups at the edge of the pond. There's a picture of him there. I don't know if you can see that. There he is. He's reading the paper. The water was all slippy sloppy in the larder and in the back passage, but Mr. Jeremy liked getting his feet wet. Nobody ever scolded him, and he never caught a cold. That's him, slippy sloppying all in the back passage there. He was quite pleased when he looked out and saw large drops of rain splashing in the pond. I will get some worms and go fishing and catch a dish of minnows for my dinner, said Mr. Jeremy Fisher. If I catch more than 5 fish, I will invite my friends, Mr. Alderman Ptolemy Tortoise and Sir Isaac Newton. The alderman, however, eats salad. So look at him. He's gone out to dig some worms. Mr. Jeremy put on a mackintosh and a pair of shiny galoshes. He took his rod and basket and set off with enormous hops to the place where he kept his boat. I can see him hopping there. I don't know if you can. He's hopping over a water lily. The boat was round and green and very like other lily leaves. It was tied to a water plant in the middle of a pond. Here we go. That's him untying his little round lily leaf boat. It's a bit out of focus there, so maybe if I put it there you can see it a bit better. Can you see? It's a lily leaf he's using as a boat. Mr. Jeremy took a reed, a pole, and pushed the boat out into open water. I know a good place for minnows, said Mr. Jeremy Fisher. You can see he's using the reed there to push the boat out. Mr. Jeremy stuck his pole in the mud and fastened his boat to it. Then he settled himself cross-legged and arranged his fishing tackle. He had the dearest little red float. His rod was a tough stalk of grass, and his line was a fine long white horsehair, and he tied a little wriggling worm to the end of it. Don't know if you can see that very well. I can't see a little wriggling worm anywhere. But there he is. He's all set up ready for fishing. The rain trickled down his back, and for nearly an hour he stared at the float. This is getting tiresome. I think I should like some lunch, said Mr. Jeremy Fisher. There he is, getting bored while he's fishing, because nothing's taking his bait. He punted back again amongst the water plants, and he took some lunch out of his basket. I will eat butterfly sandwich and wait till the shower is over, said Mr. Jeremy Fisher. I don't know if a butterfly sandwich looks very delicious. It's a bit out of focus there, but I think you can see him trying to eat a butterfly sandwich. A great big water beetle came up underneath the lily leaf and tweaked the toe of one of his galoshes. Mr. Jeremy crossed his legs up shorter, out of reach, and went on eating his sandwich. That's what a water beetle looks like. See that? Probably quite little when they're in the water, and you can just see him pulling the end of his shoe there that is sticking out over the lily leaf. That's a photograph of the water beetle under the water. Once or twice something moved about with a rustle and a splash among the rushes at the side of the pond. "I trust that is not a rat," said Mr. Jeremy Fisher. "I think I'd better get away from here." It does look a bit like a mouse or a rat. Can you see it swimming in the water there? Mr. Jeremy shoved the boat out again a little way and dropped in the bait. There was a bite almost directly, and the float gave a tremendous bobbit. "A minnow! A minnow! I have him by the nose!" cried Mr. Jeremy Fisher, jerking up his rod. Can you see? I'm not sure if it's a good picture, but there's his little red float in the water there, and that's what's bobbing in the water waiting to catch a fish. On the end of that is some food for the fish. But what a horrible surprise! Instead of a smooth fat minnow, Mr. Jeremy landed Jack Sharp, the stickleback, covered with spines. I think a stickleback is a bit like a fish. Can you see? He looks a bit surprised there, but at the end of the line, can you see? It says it's a stickleback. Apparently it's a very spiky little fish. The stickleback floundered about the boat, pricking and snapping until he was quite out of breath. Then he jumped back in the water. That's what a stickleback looks like. I don't know if that's a very big fish, but I think it's a bit smaller than a frog. Can you see? A shoal of other little fishes put their head out and laughed at Mr. Jeremy Fisher. Well, that's not very nice. There you go, lots of little fishes jumping in and out of the water. Mr. Jeremy didn't catch any of those, did he? And while Mr. Jeremy sat disconsolately on the edge of his boat, sucking his sore fingers and peering down into the water, a much worse thing happened. A really frightful thing it would have been if Mr. Jeremy had not been wearing a mackintosh. There he is, nothing surprising happening there. Ooh, I've just noticed something. In that picture, can you see under the water there? Something with a very big mouth. Can you see it? It's underneath the lily leaf, and I don't think Mr. Jeremy has noticed yet. A great big enormous trout came up, kerflop, with a splash, and it seized Mr. Jeremy with a snap. Ow, ow, ow! And then it turned and dived down to the bottom of the pond. Wow, that is a big fish. And can you see? It's got some legs sticking out of his mouth. I think that must be Mr. Jeremy, just caught inside the fish's mouth. But the trout was so displeased with the taste of the mackintosh that in less than half a minute it spat him out again, and the only thing it swallowed was Mr. Jeremy's galoshes. They're like Wellingtons. Phew, that was a lucky, because look, there's the fish down at the bottom, and Mr. Jeremy up here, he's just got away. Mr. Jeremy bounced up to the surface of the water like a cork, and the bubbles out of a soda water bottle, and he swam with all his might to the edge of the pond. Gosh, he's just about to reach the edge of the lily leaf. Can you see the lily flower there and the lily leaf there? And Mr. Jeremy just swimming right up to it there. He scrambled out onto the first bank he came to, and he hopped home across the meadow with his mackintosh all in tatters. "What a mercy that was not a pike," said Mr. Jeremy Fisher. "I have lost my rod, my basket, but it does not much matter, for I am sure I should never have dared to go fishing again." There's another photo of him hopping across the fields there, but at least he's safe. It's not a very good, it's a bit of a fuzzy photo, that one. He put some sticking plaster on his fingers, and his friends both came to dinner. He couldn't offer them any fish, but he had something else in his larder. There's his two friends. I think they're the friends he talked about. Somebody tortoise. There, they're all going to his house for some tea. Sir Isaac Newton wore his black and gold waistcoat. Ah, right, I see. Sir Isaac Newton. He's a newt. Newts and frogs live in the water, but the newts have also got legs so they can walk on the land as well. Lisa's got some newts in a pond in her back garden. Maybe one day you can go and have a look at them. Mr. Alderman Ptolemy Tortoise brought a salad with him in a string bag. There's the tortoise. String bag, it's got full of salad leaves. And instead of a nice dish of minnows, they had roasted grasshopper with ladybird sauce, which frogs consider a beautiful treat. But I think it must have been nasty. I don't think I'd fancy roasted grasshopper with ladybird sauce, do you? The end. Well, that's the end of the story we have today. Maybe I'll read you another one day. So sleep tight tonight, and I'll see you tomorrow.